Radin Mas 的全名，新加坡的全名 ，Voters of Radin Mas, Singaporean voters, Singaporeans who are too young to vote, thank you for coming to your independent candidate for Radin Mas SMC, Han Hui Hui's First Rally. 有人说，选举不可以有三角战，为什么？因为人家说有三角战，那个党赢的机会比较高。但是，当你说不要三角战，新加坡有个很大的问题。问题在哪里？那些反对党只是拿到几百票的，定金输掉的拿不回的。他说：“哦，这个是我的区哦，不要三角战，只有我可以在这里。”就好像你在 Hawker Center 啊吃饭的时候，你把的 tissue 放在那边哦，我 job 的。这问题在哪里？你要选一个拿到几百票的候选人吗？你要选个反对党，定金也输掉拿不回的吗？当然不要嘛。但是你的权利不见掉，你没有选择。为什么？因为不要三角战。刚好我们有一位年轻有为、敢说敢做的独立候选人，三角战韩伟伟。如果你说不要三角战，你是不要选那个反对党的。在这种情形下，我们的政治会发展吗？你会有更好的议员进国会吗？没有。Last night at this party, this very menu, you heard the other party say to you, "Oh, HDB flats are very affordable, you know. Less than $1,000 income, the family also can buy HDB flat." Last 4 years, 1,800 families whose household income were less than 1,000 managed to buy HDB flats. You know what's the problem with this argument? There are 50,000 Singaporeans renting HDB flats. If HDB flats are so affordable that the whole family earn less than 1,000 can buy, why aren't these 50,000 Singaporean families buying HDB flats? Why? Because HDB is not affordable. During the era of our late former Prime Minister, Singapore was famous. We had the cheapest public housing in the world. Fast forward to today, what do we have? We have the most expensive public housing in the world. Most expensive when you measure the price over the wages ratio. You know, every year the HDB tell you, hey, I sell flat to you, I lose money, you know. The more flats I sell, the more money I lose. 1 year they say it was 1 billion, the next year it is 2 billion. They say your flats are subsidized. Let me explain subsidy using the chicken rice analogy. I sell you chicken rice, and I say, you know, you go restaurant, it's $5, you know. So I sell you $3, I give you $2 subsidy. So the flats are subsidized. But I never tell you the cost of making the chicken rice is only 50 cents. So am I giving you a $2 subsidy, but actually I'm making $2.50? This is the problem of HDB public housing, the most unaffordable public housing in the world. Every year, people write to newspaper, go to parliament, ask, can you break down the price of HDB flats? How much go to construction costs? How much go to land costs? Silence. We are supposed to be the most transparent, most open. Silence. But we estimate the cost that go to land is about 60%. So what it means is, when you buy a flat for say $300,000, the land cost 60%, $180,000. This is the money that the government makes from your HDB. And they tell you it's subsidized flats. Every year they tell you, they show you the statistics. Oh, you know, all the people who buy HDB flats only use about a quarter of the income to pay. So HDB flats are affordable. You know what's the problem with this kind of statistics? People who cannot afford won't buy. So when you count the people who already own flats, surely it's affordable. The other problem with this statistic is the people who buy and can't afford, who have given up or sold their house away. Then of course those who are still staying there can pay for their flats. It's always affordable. This is the big problem with HDB. But you know what's the mother of all our problems? And this is what Han Hui Hui is famous for. You know Han Hui Hui? He's only 24 years old. Not only that, 很年轻是吗？不止年轻哦，很轻哦，只是33 kilo 而已哦。But you know this young Singaporean has been fighting on your behalf since 2013. In 2013, she was sued by a government body for defamation on things that she talked about our private education. The case did not go to court. Can you imagine how can any country have a government agency sue a citizen for defamation for asking questions in the public interest? This can only happen in Singapore. If you continue to vote the same party, the problem will continue. Unless you have people like Han Hui Hui. She refused. She said, I want to go to court and settle the question once and for all. Can a government body sue a citizen for defamation? It never went to court. When it never went to court, you can tell. Who is the winner? Han Hui Hui. Did she stop there in 2013? No. Since around December 2014, she has been holding protests at Hong Lim Park practically every month. You know what she is famous for? Return our CPF. You know, Singapore is a very funny country. We are the only country where the only place where you can protest, the only place where you can speak and ask the questions that the people are asking, and yet you can be charged in court. You know, the CPF protest for which she is facing charges was on 24th September last year. Now 1 year already. The court case only starts next month. So what happens in the last 12 months? Han Hui Hui, Roy Neng, and the other 4 persons who are charged for the Hong Lim Park Return Our CPF protest on 24th September last year are not allowed to go to Hong Lim Park to speak. They're not allowed to go to Hong Lim Park to protest. The court case haven't even started yet. Why are you denying citizens the right to speak, the right to protest? So what choice does she have? You don't let her go to Hong Lim Park to speak. She comes to Radin Mas. Back to the biggest problem, in my view, mother of all problems, CPF. How much are we getting on our CPF interest year to year since CPF started? The answer is, nobody knows. When people ask, can you tell us what's the weighted average rate of CPF interest you are paying us? Silence. You know, there are different CPF accounts. You have ordinary account, 2.5%. You have special account, 4%. You have Medisave account, 4%. You have extra 1% on the first 60,000, 20,000 to OA, the rest to MA and SA. And now, thanks to people like Han Hui Wei who keep protesting every month, all of a sudden in Parliament they say, oh, okay, now when you are 55, give you another miserable extra 1% on the first 30,000 of your CPF from age 55. So don't tell me this one pay how many percent, that one. Just tell me all together CPF, what is the weighted average rate of interest? Silence. You know why this is important that you need to know every year? Because if you don't know how much they're paying you, how do you know how much the government is keeping from you? They take your money, they use your CPF to invest, and they keep the difference. How much is the difference? Nobody knows. You know, for a long time, the position was, Temasek doesn't invest your CPF, you know. GIC don't invest your CPF, you know. A former minister, Manpower, in a reply to Parliament said, no, GIC don't invest your CPF. Even our former Prime Minister also said, no, GIC got nothing to do with CPF. But all of a sudden, after all the CPF protests, by magic they tell you, all your CPF is with GIC. And you know why? Your Temasek rate of return is 16% a year for the last 40 years. Imagine on the average, they pay you 3.5, they make 16. Wow, they keep 12.5% of your money. That's why they cannot tell you it's Temasek. So now they tell you it's GIC. So how much does GIC make? Also nobody know. They tell you, last 20 years it was 5.5% Sing dollar. Last year they tell you, last 20 years is 5.2%. This year they tell you US dollar is 6.5%. 1 year Sing dollar, 1 year US dollar, always different number. But the most important number they never tell you. What is the return of the funds that they use our CPF, that they derive from the inception of the CPF? Well, we estimate maybe 6.5%. Now imagine, if in the last 40, 50 years, on the average you get 3.5, government makes 6.5, they keep 3.5. How much is the difference that they kept of your money? Of course, nobody knows, because unless they are transparent, unless they tell you what is the rate they derive every year, what is the CPF balance, what is the CPF cost, you can calculate. But we can estimate. So I estimate that since 1981, when GIC started, if we assume that your CPF net contribution every year, net contribution is contribution minus withdrawal, increase at say about 4%. You know what the figure comes up to? $180 billion. And I'm talking about from 1981. What if I go back to 1974 when Temasek started? $200 billion. So my dear Singaporeans, the difference that the government has kept of your CPF interest is not just the interest. It is your money that you have lost. It's the cumulative loss of Singaporean CPF. I cannot find any country in the world that keeps the return of the pension funds of the people to itself. I cannot find any country in the world that keeps so much of the returns of the CPF of the people to itself. You know, from 1999, when the ordinary account rate became 2.5%, has remained at that rate till now, we believe that you have received the lowest real rate of return in the entire world of all national pension funds. Some of you are saying, what is 180 billion? Let me do an example for you. Let's say you are 21 years old. You earn $1,500. Your pay go up by 4% a year. Your CPF contribution, 38%. The difference between 6.5% and 3.5% from 21 to 65, 44 years is $1.5 million. In other words, using that example. Every one of you may lose $1.5 million in the future. How many people I see here now? Maybe 2,000 plus 3,000 people. You multiply 3,000 by 1.5 billion, 1.5 million each. What do you get? 4.5 billion. Now, what are people like Teck Siong and Ivan and I? The hair all turning white one. Let's go backwards. When we started work, I'm 61 this year. So let's say when we started work 40 years ago, our pay was $200. Using the same way of calculation, we would have lost about 200,000, every one of us. So all those of you who have no hair, white hair like me, you already lost 200,000. And that's not all, because I only calculated 65. From 65 onwards, if you still get less return than what the government is making, you are being shortchanged. The amount is humongous. And that's why I say CPF is the mother of all our problems. Healthcare. I think it was here yesterday also. Or before I talk about the healthcare, I will tell you a joke about the elections. Mr. Ng Teck Siong, the first speaker, told you that they can keep changing the law as and when they like to their whim and fancy. This year, the elections, new rules, cannot have entertainment or performance. So while we were waiting, cannot play music for you. Han Hui cannot sing one of the songs he has composed about CPF for you, because no performance allowed. Back to healthcare. Just here yesterday, you were told, oh, healthcare in Singapore is very affordable, you know. If healthcare is very affordable, how come there was one study where so many people, when they fall sick, when they're old, they rather die than to go to the hospital because they want to burden their family with the financial problems? If healthcare is affordable, why is it that in the last 7 years or so, in one public hospital, the average Class C bill, Class C is the cheapest, the lowest class, the average Class C bill in that 7 years went up by 100%. If the cheapest bill go up by 100%, how can healthcare be affordable? And now they tell you they introduced MediShield Life. Everything looks very nice. In 4 years' time, when the transitional subsidies go away, some of you will pay more than double what you are paying today. Healthcare is the second mother of all our problems. And the reason is, listen to this. From a cash flow perspective, the government is not spending a single cent on healthcare for you. Let me explain. Every year, since MediSave started, the contribution to MediSave every year is more than total government healthcare spending and your total withdrawals from MediSave to pay for insurance and for direct medical expenses. So every year, the government collect more and pay out less. So from a cash flow basis, they're not spending any money at all. We're the only country in the world where the government, from a cash flow perspective, does not spend any money at all on healthcare. And like HDB, they tell you, oh, we give you subsidy for healthcare. You go to the hospital, then the bill come out, then say, oh, okay, I'm in Class C or whatever. Oh, subsidy 80%, so much. Do the hospitals actually get the amount that is printed in the bill as a subsidy? The answer is no. The hospital don't get the subsidy. The hospital get what is called an average reimbursement based on average how many treatment you have. And it's because of this that the public hospitals are so stretched for money that when you go to the hospital, likely this is what they will tell you. Oh, okay, since you were referred from a private doctor, I cannot let you go to subsidized ward C or B2. You want, you go to polyclinic, get referral, then can be C or B2. Or you go straight to the accident emergency, or your CHAS card, you come from one of the participating private clinics. Why do you have a system that does not allow people who come from a private doctor to enter a subsidized ward at B2 and C? And so for people who cannot wait, say, okay, I take the non-subsidized ward. You go to B1 or you go to A. And then halfway you say, wow, this problem supposed to stay 3 days, now stay 1 month already, I cannot afford. Can I downgrade or not? Can, go for means testing. The last time they asked in Parliament, how many people in the hospital request for downgrading was successful? The answer was 1%. In other words, 99% of the people in the hospital, when they find that they cannot afford, request for downgrading denied because of means testing. You know, our whole subsidy system is one big bull, you know, B-U-L-L. Do you know that the B1 ward charge in one private hospital is actually cheaper than the B1 ward charge in a public hospital after the subsidy? How can the public hospital after the subsidy cost more than the private hospital? Uniquely Singapore, this can only happen in Singapore. Let me tell you a funny joke about healthcare and CPF. A few years ago, they changed the policy. You go to hospital and then you die. You owe the hospital money, but you have no assets. You have nothing in the bank, you got nothing. All you have is some Medisave left. But the hospital cannot take your Medisave because you already exceeded your Medisave withdrawal limit and eligibility limit. So they can't. So they changed the policy. What happens now? If you die in the hospital, they can take your Medisave. Doesn't matter whether you have already used up your eligibility and withdrawal. So what should you do? Don't die in the hospital. Because if you go home and die, they cannot take whatever is the balance in your CPF. At least that little amount will go to your family if you're a very poor person. Of course, you have no other assets, nothing, the Medisave may mean a lot to your family. Next, let me talk a bit about education. You know, when you watch parliamentary debate on education, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Because when the MP asks, how much you spend on foreign student scholarship? They say, okay, we spend, let's say, 30 million. But that's only for the first year. Now, the foreign students don't come and study for 1 year, right? They study 3-4 years. So you have to take calculator and guess, multiply yourself. Okay, it's about 100 million. Then another person will ask, what about the tuition grant given to PRs who are not Singaporeans and foreigners? Oh, okay, that one is about 200 million. But that's still not the whole picture. Then you ask, what is the scholarship and all the money that they pay to foreigners who are on the graduate program, not undergraduate? No answer also. So the one question we need to know is very simple. All the undergraduate and graduate students in all the public universities, how many are non-Singaporeans? Don't give me sometimes Singaporean and PR together, locals. How many? We estimate the percentage to be 30% of total enrollment in the universities are not Singaporeans. And the amount they spend, we estimate about $400 million. Can you imagine what $400 million can do for you Singaporeans for education if they did not spend it on the foreigners? The most talked about topic in Singapore today, when you go to the coffee shop, is not healthcare, it's not HDB, it's not CPF, it's not education. It's jobs. So many Singaporeans are out of job. Those clapping must be out of job, or you know somebody out of job, is it? So many Singaporeans are what we call underemployed. You know, underemployed, doing some freelance job or part-time job, or getting less than half the previous pay because they cannot get a similar job. So Yesterday also here, they tell you, oh, we created jobs for Singaporeans. It's good to bring in foreign workers because we create jobs for Singaporeans. Let me give you the numbers and you decide for yourself. In the last 8 years or so, we created about 350,000 local jobs. Local jobs means Singaporeans and PRs. Against these 350,000 approximate in the last 8 years, local jobs, we created about 490,000 foreign jobs. But that's not how bad it is. In the last 7 years, from 2007 to 2014, we granted about 350,000 new PRs and about 150,000 new citizens. So how many of the 350,000 local jobs you created actually went to Singaporeans, true blue Singaporeans, minus the PRs, minus the new citizens? When you look at these statistics, then you realize why so many people are suffering. Because the statistics do not tell you the true story. Okay, jobs is one thing. What about pay? They always tell you, oh, pay has gone up, you know. Now, since they always don't give you all the statistics, I also don't know, but I do my analysis and I estimate in the last 16 years or so, your median basic pay, gross pay, total wage, real increase, hardly any increase. Hardly any increase means less than 1% per annum. You know, it's very difficult to look at the labor statistics because they keep on changing the story, you know, keep on changing the definition. Let me explain. It used to be they will give you the wages of Singaporeans. Now, don't have already. Everything they tell you is wages of locals. But we can calculate roughly. The PR earn about 20% than the Singaporean. Why is it they cannot break down the labor data into Singaporean and PRs? Why always locals? You know why? Because not only do they change the definition of a Singaporean or local, they also change the definition of the wages of a worker. It used to be the wages is about all workers. All worker means full-time and part-time. Now, they only emphasize on what they call full-time employed residents' wages. Not all workers, not Singaporeans. In the not too distant past, all the wages, the data is shown as excluding employer CPF. Now they only emphasize on including employer CPF. All the recent years increase in employer CPF goes to the special account and the Medisave account. Are these disposable income that you can use? This money you can spend, right? Special account you can spend, Medisave you can spend. Yeah, go to hospital, then you can use the money. So how can this be counted as an increase in real wages? Actually, we have so many problems, right? HDB, healthcare, HDB, jobs. And normally, I don't speak so long. If you watch all my speeches at Hong Lim Park, I normally speak for 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the most. I must have gone on for I don't know how long already. But the problem today is, because of the new rules, you know what are the new rules this election? If you are a candidate for the election, you cannot speak at anybody else's rally. If you are a CEC member of a party that has candidates that are standing for election, you also cannot speak at anybody else's rally. So who can come to speak at Han Wee Wee's rally? Hardly anybody. 161-year-old and 175-year-old. Round of applause for Mr. Ng Teck Siong, 75-year-old, still helping a 24-year-old Singaporean. Only when I volunteered to help Han Wee Wee did I realize the tremendous odds that are against her when you try to run for election. You know how much it costs to book this field? $1,550.20 for 3 hours. You know how much it cost to put up the barricade? Luckily, the contractor came in time. If he didn't come to put the barricade, this already would have been cancelled, money gone. The cost of putting up a barricade is $1,605. You know how much the cost of putting up the stage and the sound system? I don't even know, right? God help Han Wei Wei. And now, for the highlight that all of you have come and have been waiting for. The 24-year-old, 24-year-old, she just turned 34, 33 kilos. The bravest Singaporean who dared to speak up for you against all odds. I give to you, Han Wei Wei. Han Wei Wei.
For Han Wei Wei.
Han Wei Wei.
Han Wei Wei. Han Wei Wei.